The phone vibrated once on the table. Not a call. Not a message. Just a bank alert, quiet, precise, final. I opened the app. Yesterday, my savings showed $58,400. Tonight, it read $16,600. The missing amount, $41,800, sat between those numbers like a clean incision. Emergency family liquidity, authorized via durable power of attorney. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I set the phone down and stared at it as if it might correct itself. It didn't. This is a story created by the author of the Revenge Mosaicum channel for educational and inspirational purposes, and it does not portray any specific real-life individual. I opened the transaction history. There were multiple transfers, spaced carefully across 2 days. Not frantic, not sloppy, familiar. My chest tightened not from shock, but recognition. This wasn't the first time. It was only the first time it emptied me. I tapped the contact name saved as Dad. The phone rang once before going to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. The phone rang back 10 minutes later. "Anna," my father said, already irritated. "What did you do to the account I secured it?" I said. My voice sounded flat, like it belonged to someone else. "You had no right," he snapped. "That money was needed. For what I asked." There was a pause. Not guilt calculation. "Your sister is in trouble. This is a family emergency. You didn't ask," I said. "We didn't have time." He replied, "You're strong. You understand these things." I closed my eyes. Strong. The word landed the way it always did, like a bill I was expected to pay. "You took my savings while I slept," I said. "I did what a father does," he said. "I protected my family. I am your family," I said. Silence stretched, then hardened. "Don't do this," he warned. "If you make this public, you'll ruin everything." I hung up, not in anger, in clarity. I opened my laptop and began locking doors that should never have been open. If you've ever been told your strength was the reason you were used, stay with me. What comes next isn't loud, but it changes everything. In my family, no one ever said I was the favorite. They said I was reliable. At Sunday dinners, my father would smile across the table and say, "Anna's the strong one. She always lands on her feet." Everyone nodded like it was a compliment. When the power bill came late one winter, Lily leaned over and whispered, "You don't mind covering it, right? Dad says you're better with money." I paid it without replying. Another time, my father called while I was at work. "Your sister just needs a little breathing room," he said. "You know how fragile she is." I transferred the money before he finished the sentence. No one thanked me. Gratitude would have made it a choice. Lily once laughed and said, "I don't know how you do it. I'd fall apart if I had your responsibilities." She said it like admiration. It felt like a sentence. When I pushed back just once, my father's tone changed. "Don't be dramatic," he said. "This is what family does." What family did was decide who could afford to break and who could not. By the time I realized the pattern, it was already locked in. Lily was protected because she was seen as delicate. My father was protected because he decided the rules. I was protected from nothing. I was not trusted. I was assigned. 5 years earlier, I signed the paperwork in a hospital bed, still fogged from anesthesia. My father held the pen steady. "This is just in case," he said gently. "If something goes wrong, I need to be able to handle your bills." I trusted him. I always had. The account was old, opened when I was still in school. A legacy account, the bank called it. My father was listed as an emergency administrator, a technical detail no one ever revisited. Over the years, he used it sparingly. A utility payment here, a small transfer there. Nothing that raised alarms. "This is normal," he would say. "I'll put it back." Sometimes he did. Sometimes he didn't. This time was different. The transfers came in careful increments, spread across 2 days, enough to move fast, not enough to trigger an automatic freeze. It wasn't panic. It was strategy. When I looked at the timestamps, I understood something that made my stomach drop. He hadn't taken advantage of the paperwork. He had been practicing with it. I didn't call my mother. I didn't call Lily. I opened my laptop. The bank representative answered on the second ring. Her voice was calm, trained. "How can I help you tonight? I need to revoke a durable power of attorney," I said. Immediately, there was a pause. Keys clicking. "I'll need verbal confirmation." "You have it," I said. "Lock the account. Freeze all outgoing transfers." She asked me to verify dates, addresses, my father's name. I answered without hesitation. Each confirmation felt like a door closing. "Done," she said. "No further access from the administrator. Next, credit freeze, identity protection. Password resets long strings of letters I would never remember, because no one else ever needed to know them again." My phone lit up halfway through. Dad calling. I let it ring. It rang again. On the third call, I answered. "What did you do?" he demanded. No greeting, no concern. I stopped it. I said, "You embarrassed me." He snapped, "I'm trying to handle a situation." "You handled it with my money," I said. "You're overreacting." He said, "This isn't theft. This is family." I closed my laptop. Then family just lost access. The line went dead. My phone rang again, less than an hour later. This time, my father sounded tired, like exhaustion might soften the damage. "Anna," he said, lowering his voice, "we need to talk like adults." "I am," I said. "You weren't." He exhaled slowly. "Your sister is in serious trouble. This isn't about comfort money. This is about survival." "Whose?" I asked. There was another pause. I could hear him deciding how much truth to spend. "Lily took out private loans," he said. "It spiraled. The total is $63,500, and you decided to cover it with my savings. I decided to stop things from getting worse." He snapped. "One lender is claiming forgery. They're threatening to involve authorities." The word landed heavy between us. "You paid them with my money," I said. "To make it go away. I did what any father would do." He said, "If this becomes official, Lily's life is over. You didn't ask me." I said. "You would have said no." He replied, sharper now. "You've always been rigid." "I would have wanted the truth. The truth would have destroyed us," he said. "You're thinking like an individual." "That's the problem." I laughed once. It surprised both of us. "You stole from me," I said. "While I was asleep, I protected my family," he said. "And now you're threatening to tear it apart. By locking my own account if you push this," he said quietly. "And she's charged. That will be on you." I felt my hands shake, not with fear, but with something colder. "You chose," I said. "You chose her. I chose the family." He said. "No," I said. "You chose yourself." He didn't deny it. The silence was his answer. I drove inland the next morning and parked outside a small house my father pretended didn't exist. When I knocked, the door opened almost immediately. "You're late," my Aunt Caroline said. She looked at my face once and stepped aside. It finally happened. Inside, she didn't ask how I was. She poured coffee and slid the mug toward me. "How much did he take? $41,800. I said. She nodded. "That sounds like him. Careful enough to think he's clever." "You knew." I said. "I lived it." She replied. "He emptied my accounts years ago. When I objected, I became unstable, difficult, unwelcome." She stood and crossed the room to a small safe tucked behind a cabinet. The metal door opened with practiced ease. She placed a folder between us. "That land near Edisto Island," she said. "Your father calls it his retirement." I opened the file. The estimated value was $487,000. "He doesn't own it outright," she continued. "Your grandfather made sure of that. I read the highlighted clause once. Then again. Proven financial misconduct, I said quietly. Against a direct descendant. Caroline finished. Subject to court confirmation. My hands trembled as I closed the folder. He never read that part, she said. Men like your father assume permanence. I looked up. Why give this to me now? Caroline met my eyes. Because he thinks you'll absorb this like you always do. She leaned forward. Prove him wrong. James Whittaker didn't offer coffee or sympathy. He read first. He sat across from me, glasses low on his nose, flipping through copies of loan agreements and bank statements Caroline had helped me gather. When he stopped, the room felt tighter. Your sister borrowed $63,500, he said. From 2 private lenders. I know. I said, one of those loans lists your father as a co-signer. He continued, but the signature doesn't match. I leaned forward. What do you mean it doesn't match? It's forged, he said plainly. Pressure points are wrong. Stroke order is inconsistent. And more importantly, the date places him out of state. My throat went dry. Your sister signed his name, Whittaker said. When the lender flagged it and threatened to report fraud, your father intervened. By paying them, I said, with your money, he confirmed. To prevent an investigation, I stared at the documents, the neat rows of numbers and dates. So he didn't just steal from me. No, Whittaker said. He concealed a crime. I closed my eyes for a moment. When I opened them, my voice was steady. If I do nothing, he didn't hesitate. Then this repeats. Maybe not with your sister. Maybe with the next emergency. But you'll always be the solution. And if I file, he folded his hands. Then the forfeiture clause applies. Civilly first, criminal consequences follow their own timeline. I nodded once. Whittaker slid a single page toward me. This initiates the process. I picked up the pen. My hand didn't shake. Once you sign, he said, you stop being the backup plan. I signed my name in one clean line and pushed the paper back. File it, I said. The first papers were delivered quietly. No police. No shouting. Just a process server at my father's office and a certified envelope he couldn't refuse. He called me that night. You've gone too far, William said. His voice was tight, brittle. Do you have any idea what this looks like? It looks like paperwork, I said. You're humiliating us. He snapped. People are asking questions. They're reading documents. I replied. 2 days later, Lily left me a voicemail. Her voice cracked, breathless. Anna, Dad says you're trying to ruin him. He says this all stops if you withdraw. I didn't respond. By the end of the week, William's tone changed. When he called again, he sounded cornered. She forged my signature, he said quickly. You need to tell them that. She did this, not me. So now you want me to speak. I said. Silence. Lily stopped calling after that. The church committee removed my father's name from the board pending review. Invitations dried up. Friends went quiet. Nothing exploded. Everything simply withdrew. The court confirmation came through on a Tuesday morning. James Whittaker called once. It's done. He said, the land is legally yours. I thanked him and hung up. When my father called later, I didn't answer. There was nothing left to negotiate. Lily didn't call at all. I placed the property into a conservation easement and accepted a structured settlement instead of a lump sum. The payments would come slowly, predictably, enough to rebuild, not enough to bind me to the past. A restraining order followed. No drama, just distance, formalized. Caroline texted me that night. You're lighter, she wrote. I felt it too. Not relief, not victory. Release. Weeks later, I walked alone along the shoreline, my phone silent in my pocket. No demands, no emergencies, no voices asking what I could absorb next. Caroline called once. You still holding steady, she asked. Yes, I said, And I meant it. I didn't take revenge. I didn't win anything that could be taken back. I removed myself from a system that only functioned when I stayed small and available. Some people will call that cold. Others will call it selfish. I call it survival. If this story feels familiar, if you've ever been cast as the solution instead of the person stay with us, you're not alone. And sometimes, the bravest ending is simply stepping out.